Board of Directors on March 17, 2021 is now called to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Engelman, may we have the roll call, please?
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes.
Prestes?
Yes. I mean,
Mrs. Bible?
here.
Mrs. Carlella? Mrs. Mason?
Here.
Ms. Gill?
Here.
Mr. Lowe?
Here.
Mrs. Stewart?
Here.
Did you call her name?
Mrs. Payne?
Yes, she did.
Okay. I did call you. I didn't answer that. I thought you did. They were moving their chairs. I thought you didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay, this evening, we have two presentations. The first one is Mrs. Kim Turnley. As you know, they do our annual audit for the school district. A hard copy was sent home Friday. If you didn't have it, there should be some copies available for you. At this time, I will turn it over to Mrs. Turner.
Thank you very much for having me tonight. I haven't been at a lot of in-person meetings. This is actually one of my first for my school districts. A lot of things have been virtual, so it's nice to come back and see some people, and can't see everybody's smiling face, but at least we're all here, so that's a positive. We're heading in the right direction. Anyway, I'd like to firstly thank Deb and her staff for all their help with the audit process. Of course, as all of you would expect, the audit process was a little bit different for the 1920 year, being that we had limited amount of time that we were able to spend in each of our school districts. I did spend a whole day here, with Deb, and got copies that I needed of things that were not able to be sent to us via email or Dropbox, those sort of things. So I appreciate all the extra help, because it's time consuming. There's a lot of questions that are asked and a lot of documentation that we need to have provided, and I think the audit, even in the COVID environment, was efficient and it was effective with no hitches. Deb was able to get the AFR filed on a timely basis, that annual financial report that PDE expects to be filed. And that all went well. And normally, under normal circumstances, we meet anywhere between January and March with the audit report. Based on a lot of reporting with fixed assets and those sort of things, a lot of times in this year especially, things got pushed back a little bit. But we are still within the filing deadline window that we have for all of the agencies that require this audit report to be filed, and most of those deadlines come up at the end of this month, so that'll all be done, and you'll have your filings on a timely basis. So I just wanted to make comment on that. A couple of other items that I want to just mention. As far as the audit in general, you received what we call in the accounting world an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, and all that means to you as board members, as management, is that your audited financial statements are in compliance with generally accepted accounting principles. They meet all the standards that PDE requires are in this report. So there's no deficiencies or anything in the report, and that's what an unmodified opinion is. And that opinion letter is at the very beginning of the audit report behind the table of contents. A lot of verbiage that's, if you haven't been on the board, you may not have read before, but that's it in a nutshell. The other thing that I'll comment on is that because you receive over $750,000 in federal monies that you spend every year, you're required to have us perform compliance testing on a number, either one or more programs. And you are considered a low-risk auditee, so we are required to audit 20% of your federal expenditures, i.e. revenues, the monies that you get in. So this year it was the, oh my gosh, my mind went blank. It was the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program that was audited for compliance. And there were no findings or any issues that we had with the compliance part of the audit as well. So I want to make you aware of that. I'm not going to obviously go over this whole report. Everyone knows, if you've been on the board for a while, that it's lengthy. There's a lot of little pieces to it. that you can look at yourselves. The MD&A is in here, that management's discussion and analysis, that provides some information. The notes to the financials also provide information. But what I do want to do is I want to go over the management letter that I gave you and quickly go over the important data about how you finish the year in the general fund and the cafeteria fund. So the letter that I passed out is like a 3 or 4 page letter. And basically what the letter does for us is gives us an opportunity to give you some analysis on where you've been with your fund balance and where your revenues and expenses have been for the last 5 years. Those are the first 2 pages of this letter. So if you notice on the first page, you'll see that at the end of the 15-16 year, your fund balance was a negative almost $1,600,000. Through the next 3 or 4 years, you reduce that negative fund balance for a few years, and then it's gone back up a little bit in the last 2 fiscal years, in the 18-19 and 19-20 fiscal year. And you can see the increase in the negativity of it. The 18-19 year was about $270,000, and the 19-20 year was about $424,000. And those reasons are a variety of things that internally you would know much more about the detail on than I would, as far as exactly why all those numbers came in. You know, your expenses exceeded those revenues, because when you did your budget, you did it as a break even, meaning the revenues would be equal to the expenditures. But you know, as most of you, again, are aware, if you've been on the board, that's not easy to achieve. You're never going to be a break-even for the most part. You're either going to be either to the good or to the bad for a various number of reasons. And of course, COVID played into that in the 19-20 year for all of our school districts. We had a lot of districts that were required to pay employees, you know, and revenues were down in certain areas for the reason of COVID. Cafeteria fund is one of those areas as well. You weren't getting the revenue in, but maybe your expenses did not go down as much because you were required to pay certain employees. So certain things happened in 19-20 that were unexpected. In addition to the expenditures maybe being a little wonky and different than what you may have anticipated for 19-20, your revenues were also different. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail. But if you look at the second page of this letter I gave you, there also is the same sort of 5-year history of your revenues. Now, this is all general fund we're talking. Your revenues and where they went for the 5 years, and your expenses. Please note that in 19-20, there's about, you show for both revenues and expenses like a $4 million increase in revenues and expenses. That's simply because you've refunded a bond issue. So what happens when you refund a bond issue is you show new proceeds and you show the old bond issue, the balance of the old bond issue being paid off. So that's kind of an outlier there, but I just wanted you to make you aware that it's not something that has to do with your normal revenue stream or your normal expense stream. The next page is kind of get into a little bit more detail. I'm not going to go through these in great depth, but they go into a little bit more detail about the budget, the actual, and then some current to prior year numbers. And then at the very last page of the letter, and I put this in all of my school district management letters, and that has to do with the real estate tax collectors and the segregation of duties. As all of you probably know, your real estate tax collector is not employed by the school district. That's a person that's elected, and they are outside of your normal internal controls. And you're not alone. It's the same way for every school district, every township. Everyone handles their real estate collector or collectors in the same way. Now, Aliquippa just has one. You know, many of our districts may have 5, 10, 15 real estate collectors based on the number of communities that are within their school district. So these people are not working in your buildings, and they have a little bit more autonomy as far as how they do things. And my basic concept always when I write this in here is not that we have found anything, but it's a reminder to our districts to make sure you're looking on a monthly basis at your collections, because of all of the types of misappropriation and theft that we found, and we've been auditing for 30 years in governmental arenas like school districts and municipalities. Real estate is the biggest theft we've ever found, and it's always been that way. So it's just a reminder. I didn't find anything that gave me any concern, but I throw it in there every year, and I kind of always mention it. So I'm mentioning it today.
Now, who is that one real estate collector? Who is that?
Lynn? KQ, Lynn.
KQ down at the city building.
So it behooves you to make sure that as a board and as a management team, you look at your collections on a monthly basis, not only just looking at them individually per month, but as a pattern of how your collections are coming in, how they match up to the collections that you had for the prior year, that sort of thing. So I don't want to take a lot more of your time. I told you some of these things because I know that there's some new people here, and I want to make sure that everyone understands some of the documentation that's in here. So really, I'm going to go over just a couple of these exhibits, and I'll be out of your hair. What I'm going to start with is Exhibit C, and that's on page 3, regular page 3. And it's the balance sheet for your governmental funds. You operate 3 governmental funds: general, capital projects, and debt service. And of course, the general fund is the fund that most of your money streams through. Revenue stream in and expenses stream out. So that's the one I'm going to focus on. Again, if you look down at the bottom, under total fund balances, you'll notice that your deficit at the end of the 19-20 fiscal year was about $976,000. So that means at that given point in time, with all your assets, which means your cash and investments and your receivables, your money due from other governments, like the state, the federal, all of that good stuff. And then taking into account your liabilities, your short-term liabilities, monies that are due from other funds, accounts payable, monies that are due at June 30th for expenditures that weren't paid until July or August. That's all incorporated in that. That difference is that negative fund balance. And obviously, that's something that you've been trying to turn around for the last several years, and you have done that in this last fiscal year. It took a turn, though, in the negative direction. A couple pages back on Exhibit E, this is your I always call it a down and dirty statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. It shows you what your major sources of revenue, local, state, and federal were, what your expenditures were by major function, and then again, how you ended the year. And again, you know, it points you to that same number that we looked at a few pages back, that your fund balance was the negative 976. So your total loss for the 1920 year was about $425,000. A couple pages back, and this is the last exhibit I'll go over with the general fund. This is your budget to actual. This is on page 7. You have 2 columns. You have an original and a final budget, because what happens is the budget that you get approved by PDE can be changed. It's allowed to be changed throughout the year, not the total budget, but you're allowed to do budgetary transfers within your functions to move them around based on decisions that the board and management makes. So sometimes normally your revenues are identical, they don't change, but your expenses in the pots in the various program lines can change, again, based on your decisions. So that's why there's 2 columns there. So again, I'll point you way down at the bottom where it says net change in fund balance, and you'll see in the budget column, it's 0. And it's again because you budgeted for revenues to be exactly the same as expenses. And then if you look at the actual column, then that again, similar to the previous one, shows that negative $424,000 outcome. And that negative outcome was, you know, you had, as far as revenues, you actually had revenues that exceeded your budget in various areas. Delinquent real estate, there was state revenues that were above. You also got COVID grant money. That wouldn't have even been budgeted for at all. So your revenues, you know, went above and beyond what you thought was going to be coming in the door. And then your expenditures, they were what was the issue with you going into the negative a little bit more. And they were almost $1 million over what you expected them to be. And they were in, if you look and you see the parentheses around some of these numbers, those are the functional areas where you exceeded your budget with which you anticipated. And those were for various reasons. One of the big things that we found a lot in the last couple of years is charter school costs have been difficult for school districts to budget. And even when you're budgeting more each year, I found that every year charter school costs are going up for every district. And that can be in the regular programs and the special education programs. And that's what happened with you guys. You had about a $400,000 overage in the regular education and about $350,000 in special education. Sometimes, the number of students that you have enrolled in charter schools is just not able to be, I identified early enough for your budget. That's it for the general fund. Does anybody have any questions for me in general on the general fund? Okay. The only other few things I'm just gonna take a quick look at for you though, then, is the cafeteria fund. And that starts on the next page, it's Exhibit H, and it's page 8. And this shows basically your balance sheet and what you had in net position for your cafeteria fund at the end of the 1920 year. And what your net position was about $217,000. And your cafeteria fund over the years, especially because you're part of the CEP program, has been pretty good. Your losses, if there's anything, have been minimal. And you've been able to maintain your cash balance and run the program without a lot of negativity. If you look at Exhibit I, you did have a loss of about $35,000 for the year. But again, not surprising with COVID and the way the revenue streams came in and the expenses that you had to pay out in 1920 that maybe were unexpected. So that's all I have on the cafeteria fund as well. If anybody has any questions that they think about after tonight, please feel free. Deb has my cell phone number. She has my email. I'd be glad to answer anybody's questions if you take a further look at the report and there's anything else you'd like me to expand upon.
Thank you, Kim.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
So they're looking for 700,000 extra here.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. On any charter. Next, we have Mr. Hauser and Mr. Redding. They are here to share some information on machines to help keep schools safer and cleaner. Mr. Hauser?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pardon, for the Board of Directors and administrators. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Michael Hauser. I'm Aliquippa grad class of 67, a former teacher in the district, a former administrator in the district, and most recently, a substitute teacher in the district, and we are exploring opportunities for me to come back and assist in that latter role. The reason for being here this evening is because just a little over 3 weeks, a gentleman who I consider to be a good friend called me and said, I need your help. I need your help in Beaver County, Allegheny County, Westmoreland County, Washington County. And the kind of help that he needed is what we are actually going to present to you this evening. Dave Reddick, he's the founder of something called the National Character Education Foundation. While he was working in the oil and gas industry, and what he would do, he would bring people around to elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, presenting programs about developing and displaying and having good character. I was one of the first high schools that brought him in, and I don't take ownership of it, but his program grew and grew and grew, and it actually goes across the country. But with COVID-19, as with many other things, his gas and oil industry was adversely affected by that. We started a company called Germ Solutions, and Germ Solutions was contacted with another American company, and that company said, hey, listen, we have a technology I think that you will be interested in, and that will be good for a lot of people who work in schools, for students, for teachers, nursing homes, hospitals, and all of those kinds of things. And so we're here to talk to you this evening about this technology and what it can do for returning students and teachers and the staff back into a building with pretty much total safety. I'm not an expert because I've only been at this for a little over 3 weeks, but in making contact with colleagues around the educational industry, for instance, we have a meeting with Trinity tomorrow. I will be talking with the Midwestern Intermediate Unit next week in the IU3, which is the Allegheny County Intermediate Unit. Those talks are going to be scheduled. So there are a lot of school districts who are looking at this particular technology because, again, what it's going to do, it's going to permit students and teachers to come back into classrooms, allow staff to come back into their offices. It will allow people to come back into their buildings and have a certainty that the air is safe and that the everything that the air touches is equally safe. As I said, I'm not the expert, so at this time I'm going to turn it over to Mr. David Gray.
Thank you.
You could take that off.
Can I take it off?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so Mike, I appreciate the introduction. We go back a number of years. I do have a foundation that I started years ago for kids. We've been all through the state of Pennsylvania, I think 476 school districts out of 500. Still active, still funded by the state. It's a philanthropic side. My oil and gas company did go on, oil and gas. It still survives. It's U.S. Shell Investment Fund. But in the process of that company taking a look at the slide, I had contacts in the sanitation space, and therefore I started a company called Germ Solutions. This product that you see right here, just a week ago, the Teachers Union in Philadelphia, at the urging of the Teachers Union in Philadelphia, purchased 2,500 of them so they can reopen. 70,000 went into classrooms around the country in January of 21. You ask, what's this little thing really do? It's got amazing technology. The technology that's in that little device that you see there, and you have one, correct, in your office?
Yes.
Okay. Pretty silent?
Yes.
Very silent? Yeah. So I'll explain the technology in a minute, but I want to share with you the vetting process of why I feel so confident about this unit in closed quarter spaces. The question I ask administrators and teachers in Philadelphia School District, and also Harrisburg School District and many others, Colorado's second largest school district the other night on a Zoom call, is this question: what does your current system do to protect a teacher from an asymptomatic student who's sitting in the front row? And I don't get an answer because while we're trying to do sanitation, and we're doing a wonderful job of doing all the surfaces and everything, because that's what we need to do as the CDC's recommendation, what we have neglected to do is really how do we clean the air around us? How do we do that? That little system right there was the only system in the United States that was vetted and tested with using a live SARS-CoV-2 virus, a real thing. It was tested at the University of Texas Medical Branch, Galveston, the Galveston National Laboratory, the largest university laboratory of its kind, but it's a level 4 bioscience laboratory in Galveston. The floors of the building go down 12 stories. It's like a fortress. You just can't get in. It has its own security system, security guards. It's used by the United States military for bioterrorism agents, chemical warfare, emerging pathogens, infectious diseases, all the things that we're afraid of, the things that are invisible to us. So we've got a live SARS-CoV-2 virus in the testing chamber. That little unit, by the way, goes from 500 to 3,000 square feet. So they tested the unit on a live virus, shooting 10 million particles per milliliter into the actual chamber. And within 3 minutes, it was registered non-detectable. So if anybody wants to vet that, I'd love to show it because I'm really excited about it. We have a 135-page certified classified report that I can show on a Zoom call. I can't give it to you, but I can show you the actual data as to how they did it, and it's fascinating. It's truly fascinating. And so when you see that, you can vet that out yourself. I want you to, because I want you to be comfortable with what you're seeing right here on that desk, because it looks innocent. You know, it just looks innocent. But it was set at its lowest setting when they got that reading. Pretty amazing. And so what they came away with was the fact that once it's deployed in your classroom, you give it to 3 minutes, it's taking the pathogens out of the air, not just SARS-CoV-2, which I'll show you in a minute, but it will continually work and it'll affect your exhale. Our asymptomatic, that means I passed through the temperature check and I've done all that stuff, and here I am. I'm in the class, I'm not feeling sick, but I'm transmitting the disease because I don't even know I'm sick. And that's what asymptomatic means. It's 14-day incubation period, so you could be around somebody you just don't know. And you're breathing in the airspace. So if you took 25 students in a classroom, and you had, your teacher, and we're trying to help the students and the teacher come here, the teacher doesn't know where 25 students have been, right? That was a big argument in Philadelphia, was the fact that we love our kids, but we don't know where they've been. If we are going to bring them back, maybe we won't bring back 25 into the classroom, but we'll just use that for points of illustration. Say we did. Say September we brought it back. Okay, and this is still lingering. 25 students over 7 hours breathe over 157,000 times collectively. 15 to 18 times a minute at rest. You're running, you breathe more. It's amazing. And so if somebody is asymptomatic, it can spread rather quickly. And that's what the biggest fear has been. We had contacted the UTLA, it's the United Teachers of Los Angeles, because they were on national news, and we shared with them what happened with Philadelphia and how the teachers union got behind us and said, we've got to have this system. And they literally went and we drop shipped 5 semi-loads to them within a couple of days. We have it. They're manufactured out of Bristol, Virginia. And they're on transports as immediately as fast as we can load them up. It's pretty exciting technology. This is a high priority standard inside the ESSER stimulus package. You know what that is, correct? Elementary, secondary schools, emergency relief fund. That's what you got your $4 million from in this district. You got around $4 million, but you can use it for various other reasons and purposes. And that's what school districts are doing because they need to. But there are school districts that are buying units because they realize that they have an immediate battle they need to contend with. And they want people to feel safe. They want people to come back to school and feel safe. Teachers, parents, students. I mean, let's face it, it's been a confusing year altogether, right, for most of us. So that unit right there, actually, what it'll do differently than a HEPA filter or a carbon filter, it's not passive. So what that means is that I can have a filter over here in the corner, and it's going to draw air to it. And it's going to capture the pathogens in its filter. That's what the hope is. That's what we want. And something's obviously better than nothing. I'm not discrediting any of that. I'm not. That has its purpose. The difference between a HEPA filter and a passive filter is that it waits for the pathogens or tries to draw it in. This one takes the ambient water, moisture, from your air. And that's how through the hydroxyl process, the patented process, which creates a hydrogen peroxide, like a dry hydrogen peroxide, which your body creates naturally in your lungs. Protects you. And it literally goes into the airspace at 1,200 feet per second. We liken it in the industry like popcorn smell. So if you had like a gas, like if you had popcorn opened up in your microwave and you open the bag, everybody smells it, right? You ever do that? There's no one upstairs, downstairs, wow, somebody got popcorn one. It works in the same principle. I mean, I hope that's a good analogy, but it's the only one I can think of, So in our industry, with this unit, we say we send the solution to the pollution. We don't wait for it to come to us. Nor should you. And that's the system in a nutshell. If you look at the sheet that Mike had handed out, you have this CDC hierarchy of control. This is really important to understand this, and especially for Don, because he sits at the top of the heap. He has to follow these instructions. He wants to. He doesn't want liability. I'm really back to superintendents and their decisions because they're following strict orders and they're trying to do the best they can. This one, that unit sits at the top level of the CDC hierarchy of control. The liability is now mine. The liability falls on me. There's an outbreak in this school, and because of the system, that liability falls on the system. It doesn't fall on anybody else who made a decision to put this in. The CDC regulated that system to be on its highest level. It's called physically removing the hazard, or in this case, the pathogen. The FDA, it's a certified FDA device. It's also a Class 2 medical device, certified by the medical community. It's currently deployed in, sorry, my phone's ringing, it's on vibrate. See what it is? That unit is actually right now in a 2-year study in the Cleveland Clinic and Surgery Centers. And I'll tell you why. This is really fascinating technology. It's that, they have all of this one?
Yes.
Okay. If you flip this over, gave you a little package with a binder on it. There is a more detailed description of what I'm about to tell you. But this was also tested on many other villages that keep our kids home and send our teachers home and force us to buy substitutes for the day or the week or the month. Okay? That this was also tested on staff, antibiotic-resistant staff, the staff that you get, you don't have any drugs that can help clean that up, because that's a big fear in hospitals. So surgery centers have deployed this unit because they literally rendered it non-detectable to stay in the chamber of antibiotic-resistant staff. First, they couldn't find it. They could not get the systems well enough to find that staff, okay? E. coli, you see MRSA, you see swine flu, norovirus, pneumonia, all the villains that we're always worried about. You know, our kids picking up, and we pick this stuff up. It's been a concern for years. It's always been a concern. This little unit was actually vetted and studied at a school district in Pennsylvania before COVID, and it had an over 80% reduction in flu-like dismissals, or flu-related dismissals, I should say. 80%. You know, it says a lot about what the technology is. And again, I don't want to just say anything bad about anything else that's been deployed, because something in this race that we're all in to try to beat this has been really kind of dramatic for most of us. We didn't know we were going to run into this, you know, and here we are trying different things, and some of it works, some of it doesn't. You know, I will tell you that little device right there will take care of your classroom, and it'll take care of your close quarter spaces like nothing else will.
You mentioned International Space Station and Dr.
Okay, yes, I could do that as well. Well, Dr. Burks had just joined our team. She was part of the, with Dr. Fauci, you know, you see her on TV quite a bit. Whether you love her or hate her, her resume is amazing. If you look at her resume, she's amazing, you know, what she's done over the years. And so she did just join our technology team. And the reason why is because she was impressed enough, because we're now starting to take our masks off. You know, it's that, right? In Florida, Texas, and places that say get rid of the mask. She's an advocate saying, well, if you're going to do that, you better have something to protect your indoor space, because it's still not gone. Vaccinations are only effective up to a certain level. Sometimes they're saying 65, 95 is bouncing around. We don't quite know yet because we haven't been vetted long enough. So who's taking that chance? So a lot of folks aren't even coming out of the house yet. You know, the school districts on the East Coast, other than Philadelphia now, a lot of them aren't coming back till next year. You know, they're looking at going into September, you know, because of the fact they've been doing it for so long this way. And so yeah, she joined the team. What's the other question, Mike? Oh, the space station, sorry, guys. So the technology, when it in its original form, was originally designed by NASA. NASA used this and deployed this on the International Space Station, and they perfected it to do what it's doing today, and went to the private sector. Mike Jackson, who I work with every day, who got me into the business, is the owner of the technology now in the company that I work with on behalf of this unit. The NASA actually has a Hall of Fame. They call it the Space Foundation's Hall of Fame. You can look it up. It's fascinating. This is one of the 75 technologies worldwide that's ever been inducted into that Hall of Fame. And you have to do something magnanimous for mankind in order to get into the Hall of Fame NASA. Okay. So one would be the pacemaker. Pacemakers made a big difference in people's lives, right? That's it. I mean, my mother has one. She's lived 20 years. Without it, she would have been gone probably 20 years ago. LASIK eye surgery is another one. GPS, global positioning system, how does that change your life, right? You know, just find my way to school, I used it, you know, tonight. You know, those are the technologies and the kinds of technologies that have impacted mankind in a magnanimous way that is now they're inducted. This technology is one of the 75. And so NASA's brand, we're really excited about the affiliation and the relationship we have with them. They continue to do more and more developments of this. I can see this being even stronger in development, maybe emitting more into larger spaces, 3,000 square feet, but it's continuing to grow that way. We have a lot of these that are now being deployed, like I said, in nursing homes. You know, we should have them early on in nursing homes because a lot of bad things happen there. So, I can't stop somebody from coughing in your face. Right? I mean, if somebody coughs in your face, I think that'd be, it's pretty, that'd be sad. But, the bottom line is social distance, still keep the social distancing, still do the protocol, don't change the protocol until they tell you to change the protocol. But with those things in place, and at the point of your school, you won't get COVID here. You won't spread it in your classrooms. And it does complement current HVAC systems, so if you have bipolar ionization or UVC lighting that's coming in, this will actually help treat the air that's been pushed into that space too. Because it doesn't completely take care of the vortexes and the gaps in there, even if you have air changes up to 5 or 6 times, an hour in a room. And UVC lighting, it needs to stay in front of UVC lighting for like a minimum of like 2.5 to 3 seconds. And a lot of times the air is blowing too fast, not capturing the entire thing. Even with multiple units that are radiating inside that cylinder, inside that HVAC system. They're good systems, don't get me wrong. I compliment them for doing it. I think if you do have that system in this school, it's wonderful. A 1-2 punch like this, you pretty much can tell your audience, that means your taxpayers and the rest of the people that have their children coming here, that you're doing the best job you can for them, protect them as they get here. And I think, I don't say most importantly, but I wouldn't say most importantly, because we're all about teachers, the teachers are, outnumbered, 20 to 1, they know where they've been, but they don't know where everybody else has been, and you can't really identify that. So, on behalf of teachers, I stand in, support of them, and I stand in support of this machine. And you can always talk numbers. At some point, we can talk about that. You can study around it after us. Is there any questions? Yes.
That box,
Yes.
it would be one in each room, or would it hook up to our air system and it goes to
That
every
would, we
room?
deploy those in each room.
In each room?
Now, yeah, classrooms, yeah. It's just, there's 25 people in that room, or whatever you end up having in there, we like to do it that way. That's been the protocol that we've claimed. Now, some school districts may move them because they're portable
Right.
and they're mobile. They can move them from place to place.
What's the cost of one of those?
The cost of that for retail is $1,500 if you buy them independently. But what I do is I try to do a group purchasing, and I bring the cost down to school districts significantly. Yeah, probably over a significant difference down to, $500 off that normal mark. So when I do that, yeah. We want to get it into the space.
How many classrooms do we have?
Oh, well, almost 100, I would say. That's on the high end, and,
So we're looking ballpark of
office
100.
areas, and I don't know, would something like this be able to, just one for a room like this, or our library, or gymnasium? If
You
you,
can deploy them in there as well. We've done, gymnasiums, depending on what the size is. I like to do like a facilities checklist I have. It gives it a DNA of the building. I'll know how many classrooms, square footage, what that looks like. And it is really helpful then to come back with the concrete, precise look at your building, what you should probably do with it. And, that's as simple as I can get it. But yeah, we have done this in libraries. You know how quiet they are, so they're not gonna bother you,
But it would be one unit, like for this size room, or
Oh,
a
yeah, this
gym,
is a 3,000 square feet.
or a gym.
Gym, it may take.
Cafeteria.
Yeah, it depends on, I can take a look at that, but if you had somebody here, your facilities director, somebody said, hey, I have this is how much space I have, then we can build it out accordingly.
he's
Do
here.
you know what the square footage of our buildings are? Do you know what the square footage of our buildings are?
I would walk up an average classroom would be 25 by 30.
Anybody here got?
750.
These are math.
750.
Based on that, you need 2.
2 for
Yeah,
5.
you can deploy it pretty much everywhere.
No, 750.
No,
He said 750 already, he got the answer.
750?
Yeah.
So these are all on, because we don't have the power on, we don't have the power on. You can set this dial for up to 500. You could set it to the room size you're in, okay? Which is really beneficial. Yeah, this is it.
So now, okay, now, it's covered 1,200 square feet.
Would it filter out of the room too?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, it answered the question, I wanted to answer that question. If you get a cold air return, it just flows through the entire ventilation system, it's really a good place to have it. And in homes, when you deploy them in homes, like I do in my house, put it by the cold air return, and you get it through your entire system. And a lot of times, it depends, is it metal ductwork or fiberglass?
It's insulated metal.
Insulated metal? Okay, good. Because a lot of times stuff grows inside your ductwork if you don't get them sanitized and clean. So this actually will do that. So some of the things I didn't mention, mold issues. Plum Borough has a mold problem. They have like 75 dehumidifiers in one part of the building. Has some problem happening. There was some water damage. And so this actually will eradicate mold. It takes mold spores right out of the sky with positive and negative charges. Yeah, so it's, that's another good thing. Allergies, things that I haven't talked about, it's changing seasons now, right? So, if you got asthma, you got allergies, you got different things that are affecting you, this will really help you a lot. This will help you.
Now just based upon what you were saying, so they're in the hallways, or not in the hallways right now, but say for instance, all that goes back and they're in the hallways back and forth. So you're saying when they come in the room, this machine right here, exhausts, brings in all of what they had in the hallway into the classroom. It clears the classroom.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Not their symptoms, but the classroom.
But it'll clear the air that you're breathing.
The air.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot to talk about, and I know you guys have a busy night, but one of the things that I omitted, because I don't have we're going in Q&A, that if you deploy this system up to 3 hours to 7 hours, you leave it on, your surfaces are decontaminated. Your pencils, your desktops, your rulers, your blackboards, your chalk.
that once more? You said if you leave it on for 3
If you leave this on, we vetted this even further. By leaving this on in the classroom, within 7 hours, it's reduced down to 99% on your surfaces. This is called the Air
Okay, gotcha. I thought you
Surface
said
Pro.
they would be contaminated.
So it's also going to be, what you might find, just in terms of, I'm sure that the maintenance people would contest to this. Occasionally, what you might find, there's a lot of the pathogens and a lot of dust mites and things in your building. You might find a little bit of dust on your desktop because of this. It happens. They just wipe it down because it turned into harmless elements anyway. So, it actually punctures the shell of viruses. This is by the way, just so you know, this is a 6-log kill, okay? So a 6-log kill, let me describe a log kill. So if you don't have a 4-log kill or greater, you can't kill a virus. So they tested in the little booklet, you'll see it's a 5 and a 6-log kill. So a 5-log kill would be, there's 100,000 microbes on the top of the surface right here. It's reduced to 1. In a 6-log kill, it's 1 million to 1. So when they did the vetting, they actually have a 7-log test, which is 10 million plus, reduced it to 1. I know it's almost unbelievable, but what I would like to do, if it's okay with the people that are the people in the know that do the cleaning, is that I'd love to show you the certified study, the statistical data, so you can actually vet that and see it yourself, so you can validate what I'm saying. It's private, but we can show it to you, and you can see that. It's the journal of how we actually did the testing at the medical lab or the Galveston National Laboratory. You should see that.
Did you say, that it disperses something into the air?
Yes, actually, what it does, I wish we could turn these on like.
No, but whatever it disperses, is that a refillable thing?
It's a very good question. It's not. Let me tell you how it works. So first of all, to answer that question in 2 parts. One is, there's no filter changes. You don't have to change the filter in this. You don't have to buy another filter. It'll tell you on the front when it needs to be cleaned. So what you do is you just pop the back on like this, take it out, this will come off. The screens, here's 1 screw. You shop vac it, you put it back in, you hit the reset button, and for 30 days it'll continue to run unless you're in a really high area with a lot of dust and a lot of things. It may do that sooner, but it'll tell you. To answer your question, which is a very good question, there's an active pure cell. This is the patent that makes this run. It's inside here. And we can turn it on. Mike, can you turn that on? Can you get one on just so you can see it? Yes. You can see the cell. So inside the cell, what happens, the cell is that what normally happens is, to the cell, when the cell life is going down, okay, when it's starting to go away, it's usually about every 18 months. It's a $60 fix. So instead of placing the filters, you gotta buy additional cells. What I'm typically doing now, because of COVID money, is that I'm trying to go ahead and add an additional cell. Now, you gotta store those and have some responsibility where they be stored inside your school. But you put them someplace where, when it tells you to change the cell, the process is extremely simple. You just do the same thing you do with the filter. You take the filter out, the cell's positioned right there. There's 2 little screws on it. You just turn them, you take it out, you pop the other one back in. The useful life on a cell is, in the estimate, when you use them, how you use them in your school district, is about 18 months.
And how often would that be running, like, in my?
You would probably leave it running 24 hours a day unless you just shut it off in the summertime when kids aren't here. You don't need to do that.
And how much are the cells?
The cells are 60.
All right, then I'm a numbers person. What's that gonna do to my electric bill?
43 watts. Yeah, 43 watts. Very de minimis on the level.
So back to, what is dispersed is what air passing through this cell. And so it's not replenishable. It's not like, you mentioned the word hydrogen peroxide. So it's not that you have to fill it up with hydrogen
No, so you're
peroxide.
right. Sorry about that. I missed that. Yeah, you're right. There's nothing.
So to
you need
replace
do
the
to
cell, you
maintain
take
that.
the back off and
The only
then.
thing you would need to do
Replace it when
is
it's,
replace it when it's called for. That's
Oh,
it.
okay.
It's a low maintenance item. It's one of the simplest things I've ever used in my life. It's got such, capacity.
So
to it.
replacing the cell, cleaning the filter, anything else?
That's a head of maintenance. You need to hear that. He couldn't hear that. Oh, you heard him? Okay, okay.
Okay, yeah, so when you replace the cell, it's just taking the back off again like I just did. And you just take the filter out, probably clean it while you're doing it.
Dr. Carbone's office today,
Oh, yeah.
and glanced through it a little bit about replacing this. Now, the manual that comes with it does say that at 12 months you do replace the filter and the cell.
Well, not the filter.
Depending on
Yeah.
how much use,
Yeah,
on how frequently it needs replaced.
yeah.
And I think it said 6 hours usage per day, it'll last 12 months. But if you let it run 24 hours a day, as you just mentioned, it's gonna be changed sooner than once a year.
What you see when you use this is how you deploy it in your school, okay? Whether you're running it 24 hours a day when nobody's here, or if you're gonna shut these off and turn them off, okay? So I will tell you that in the manual, that's what it's saying to you, and I would follow that instruction. My experience and the experience I've had from the deployment of this so far, since they've had these, the way they're working them in the manufacturer, that those cells are probably gonna go 87 to 60 hours, okay, roughly. And so you're looking at your timeline, how you deploy it in the school. It'll tell you when it's gonna go. So everybody's gonna do it a little bit differently, depending on, perhaps Mrs. Jones's room, she's gonna get in early, she wants to turn it on, leave it on a little longer. You won't have the life changes in these all at the same time. You know what I mean? It'll happen in different time periods, and it's gonna tell you when. So what I suggested, and I told Mike, I said the best thing to do, if you do have capital, and, stimulus 3 is a multiple of 2, plus it just got passed into law on the 11th. So if the formula holds true, on ESSER, the stimulus money that goes out to the school districts, you should be getting a multiple of 2+ in your next round, if the formula that they issued this time holds true the third time. So that's about $9 million. Ventilation is part of that stimulus language. What I wanted to do with Mike was I said that, you're our people, honestly, I've been over here at Mike, this is Mike's school. And I said, we'll do whatever we can to help make this work for you if you decide to go down this path. We'll get an extra cell, you just have to store them somewhere, whenever they need it, so you don't have to think about that budget item for a couple, 3 years if you're gonna fall into it, you know what I mean, if you decide to go.
can I ask another question?
What's that?
At $1,000 a unit, how are they secured in the room?
That's
It would be
another
real
good
nice
question.
to just put it in your pocket and take it
That's another
home.
really good question, because that is a concern. It's a concern. Could they have legs, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I'll be honest with you, if if you can help me create something to fasten down, I'll put your company on my website, you can sell them to everybody. Because it's been a question that has come up a lot lately, and I don't know.
One of the smaller items that,
Yeah.
you know, if you go into a box and it could grow legs.
It could grow legs. So what we're thinking is, you know, the way, you know, some of the school districts we've been talking with, have been thinking about ways of being able to secure these. I mean, obviously, I don't think you don't have cameras in every room.
Not in the rooms, no.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. I don't really have an answer to that one yet. I hope that we bring the National Character Education Fund, and I'll teach all the kids how not to steal.
I need to ask a question.
I'm not sure that.
We're not honing in on any particular group, it's just, as you say, they could develop lanes. I like that term.
They could.
We have a question back here.
Okay, you said it works with, 3,000 square feet? Okay, so being that we only have 750 square feet, that would not, tune out or run out as fast because we're not using it at a full capacity, correct?
That's another good question, because if we don't say that in the manual, your capacity level is at max. When you do that, you're gonna turn it down to 500 square feet or
Yeah, so we have a
7,750. Yeah, you can
longer
get a
life.
longevity, yeah. Because we have one? Yeah, we have one. That's right. So you have one, and then you have the A tier, and then you have the plus. And your fan speed's right here, so everything is kinda, you see the cells are working. And, you know, it's and this is how we turn it down on this, this is where I put the setting at 500. Actually, I put it down to 1. You don't need it that high. And then you get to 1,000, excuse me. To 1,000, oh, 1,000, sorry. 1,000, 2, 3. You with me? And then actually this would be 2, this would be 3 right here. So that's how that would work. That's that little dial. Now you hear it coming out a little bit faster. See that?
I just know that.
You see the little line in there? You looked at it?
No, I did not. Oh,
That's it.
that's the sale. So, what would be, and I wasn't sure, because I couldn't hear, somebody might have asked that. So, say, the maintenance of it. Every so many months, or every so many what, you have to repair what? And what would the cost of that be?
Yeah, so there's a.
You understand what I mean?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a filter.
Right,
You don't have to buy a new filter. You just take this one out and clean it.
okay, all the
That
time.
little device you see down here,
The filter will never, ever,
You don't, no, if you clean it properly maintenance, it'll last years.
okay,
The recommendation is, company recommends a lot of times you buy another filter, you don't have to keep it clean. You know, keep the regular maintenance up, you see whether it's okay or not, you know? It'll tell you when it's full, you know? I'm not about spending extra money, but sometimes that's the way it is. You know, they'll do that inside the manual, but you won't need to replace it like that. This cell you will when it tells you. So that cell gets replaced.
it depends.
Depends on how often you use it. So typically, I mentioned earlier, 18 months is what we're calling for. The manual says a year if you're cranking it up, but in 18 months is the time frame. It'll also tell you right here. And then the maintenance team can come change it. You know, they just put it in.
So since we're using this sale, and this seems like a good gadget, and it not only helps with COVID, but other environmental stimuli. So basically, this will decrease the rate of absentees, correct?
Yes. Yes. Have you seen, have you gone through the book at all? Because I don't have one of these right here.
No.
There's your SARS-CoV-2. You can see the reduction in the air. You can see the reduction on the surfaces. And you skip through that. The next page is 80% reduction in flu-related dismissals, Indiana. And then there's a preschool kids get sick, you know, so there's a preschool study on that. And you'll see various other studies. And what I would show you is or any of you actually would see the actual study itself. It's fascinating where they extracted the virus. So most systems that you're going to find, including MERV 13 has never been tested on the SARS. MERV 10 hasn't been tested on the SARS. No system that I know of has been tested on a live SARS-CoV-2. A surrogate, maybe. There's substitutes for it. It costs a lot of money to do it. It's hard to get, and to be able to get it and get it into that laboratory, you have to go into a level 4, which is the top laboratory, to do the study, to get the actual virus. You have to see the report. You'd want to see the report. You want to see how they got it. It's really quite amazing. But so they have the virus and they test it on a live one. So that's, you know, I mean, that's pretty much it.
What's the warranty? What's the warranty?
3 years.
3 years? What's the expected lifespan?
If you maintain this, expected lifespan is literally, this machine should work for 10. I mean, you should have it for a long, long time. I've got the machines at my house at work. If you maintain it, you don't drop it. I can't tell you for sure that's gonna go, you know, have a, you know, like my mother has stuff in the house that she has since 1950. It still works, like a vacuum sweeper, you know, but I can't tell you. I know this is really well done. It's quality work. It's made here in the USA. It's made out of Bristol, the manufacturing center. It has not been, around long enough, I should say, in order for me to tell you that, you know, this sweeper, you know, is gonna stay with you for 10 years.
How long have they been commercially available?
These been commercial, this one here just recently, within the last 18 months, this particular unit.
And how many of those units have they sold so far?
Thousands, tens of thousands. We've deployed 70,000 in classrooms in just this January, 21, this January. And by the way, the study that you see was recently as of December of 20. So it's not a study that happened in 17 or 18 or way back in the day. The study hasn't been done on the live SARS-CoV-2 virus, so the study is recent as of December. That's what you'll see if you look at it.
Can you provide references for the school districts that they're
Yes.
participating?
Yeah, I could do that.
Have you presented to any other districts in the area?
Right now Duquesne has them on deployment. They're using them as they're getting ready for the PCCD grant stuff that they're kind of buying through. Baldwin, Whitehall, Shaler, I'm in discussions with Shaler, not sure what direction they're gonna go in. We talked to Allentown, Central Dolphin, Lower Dolphin, about the Riverside. Brent Trotter called for 5 units the other day. He's interested in getting some. He wants to see how they're gonna work. Talked with, geez, a lot of school districts. I mean, almost all of them have calls and there's different things that are queued up. You know, I'm not sure if they're gonna pull the trigger yet or not, but it seems likely that they will. You know, Philadelphia would.
I mean, around here, Riverside, Shaler, Baldwin, that's what you said.
Yeah, you would call Randy Hunter over at Baldwin. He's the facilities director. He's the one working on it. He has one he's demoing now because they're looking at it. Trotta called me the other day. My son is going to school there, so I'm a Riverside guy.
Okay.
And there's no comment about the Riverside football team. That's bad, dude. I was telling him. I said it was 41-0 in the first quarter. He ran back from opening kickoff. We were down already.
So they probably do it
But the,
in the locker room.
so Trotta is interested. I did call Mancini. I haven't got back to him yet.
Yeah.
I just said that.
Yeah, he's not at Elwood anymore.
He's on it out.
He's retired.
He did
Because we
retire.
wouldn't have had to pay for the money.
Wes Shipley is the superintendent at Elwood.
They never got bounced back to me either. Who's in there?
Wes Shipley.
And what's more, they have to pay and take
So, anyway, I can get some more of these for you. You can have some demo them, you can just, you know, do whatever you feel comfortable with. There's no pressure on this one. I'm here to educate, and then you guys can make the command decision as to how to proceed with it.
So, as a board member myself, finishing up my 8th and final year in the Moon area, I've been talking to our board president about these devices. Moon had a, I have to clear my throat for this, a $4 million deficit, budget deficit. And so, I'm sensitive to the budgetary issues that schools have. But also said to my board president and the other board members, as we were discussing this at our last executive session, what price do you put on the health of kids? We know that budgets are tight, and that's why the CARES Act 2 is good for school districts. It's going to bring money to you that you didn't have before, that you couldn't count on. You have to apply for it, but it's available. And we're all putting it in some $4 million $100,000+. In the recent legislation, it's going to be at least double that for this school district. And out of that money, and it's not all going to come in at one time, it's going to come in over time. But this gives you the opportunity to immediately provide for a safe learning environment. It's great that teachers have had their shots. That was very important, very necessary. Because without teachers, education simply doesn't work, in person or virtual. And so the fact that teachers have got their shots, that gives them a lot of confidence that they can have. But what about our kids, and what about our kids' families? If we can send our kids to school in classroom environments, cafeterias, where they know that the air is going to be breathable, that they know that air is going to be free of these various pathogens. And COVID is the worst, but it's not the least. What price do we put on our kids? So I encourage you as a Aliquippian, encourage you as a fellow board member, encourage you as somebody who really has worked and is looking forward to work in the district, to really think about what you can do to make the in-person experience the best it could be for your kids, because guess what? They're our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, I want to tell you, where you need to go to? Marietta.
Thanks, David, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
My grandson.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. He been
Okay.
tested 4 times. They keep getting the open. Yeah. They need something up there.
There's nobody here, I wouldn't read it.
Okay.
Is that okay, John?
Yeah.
Bobby been tested so many times, I'm sick of it. They need something up there. He gonna come home if they don't, if they don't.
Administration.
17
Leave
football
a
players.
couple of minutes. I can do
Sure.
that.
He been-
Sure, Mr. Collins.
He don't have it. He never had it. But
Hey, Mike, how much for the used model?
I missed that route.
How much for the used model?
How much, oh, for you, $1 off.
$1. I'll take it.
$1 off.
That's cool. That's cool, ain't it? But that's the used model.
Recommendation to approve the minutes of the February 10th and 17th, 2021 board meeting.
I move.
I'll second.
Any questions on the motion?
Who's second?
I do.
Ms. Caldwell.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Community Development Block Grant. Recommendation to approve submitting an application for the Beaver County Community Development Block Grant Program to refurbish or to demolish the visitors' grandstand at the football stadium.
I move.
Second.
Go ahead.
Question, yeah. Did we make a decision on that yet?
No, I've been in contact with the architect since last week when he presented, working on a date for his engineer to come out and take a look. And he's going to give me some numbers, some estimates that I'm going to share with the budget committee next Tuesday at our meeting.
I'm asking because I was in on the last meeting. I was watching it on YouTube. And he said something at the end that I've been saying for a long time, that the foundation over there is firm. You know, and I'm just wondering, do we really have to tear it down, or we could just open up a space there to put a scoreboard there and just cover that up and use the rest for advertising?
It's a possibility,
Yeah.
something we
It's
could definitely
cost-effective.
discuss and explore.
Yeah, it's cost effective, save a lot of money, and then we could just concentrate on the side where everybody sit. You know, just concentrate on that and the field.
Yeah.
So I don't think
we should tear nothing down over there. I think we should just fix it up, make it presentable, and use it for people that want to advertise.
But he also said that it would be almost like a Band-Aid, because it would be something that, we would keep consistently have to make those necessary repairs every so many years, so.
He actually said every year we would have to do repairs.
To maintain it, you'd have to do
He
it
said
every
every year we would
Every
have to
year.
do
Yeah.
maintenance.
Yeah, but I don't see that being, real cost effective. You know, when you look, you gotta go over there and look at it. You gotta go see for yourself. You know, even if you got, not just like you said, you know, it's new, but sooner or later it's gonna need some maintenance. So everything, whatever you do is gonna need some maintenance, but
That's
I'm
right,
saying,
everything.
that foundation over there is solid.
That's what I was calling me.
All these years it's been there, ain't moved, it's still there. So I don't see the point of tearing down the stands or tearing it down when we can make use of it, and another, we can make money off of it.
When he was
Advertising.
talking about the foundation, I want, he was talking about the
The
wall.
ceiling.
I heard everything he said, I was in, I heard
He was
everything
talking
I
about
said.
the wall, though. He wasn't talking about the actual ceiling.
I heard
No,
what
he was
said.
talking
I
about
heard
the
what he said.
ceiling. He
I
said
heard
the
what he said.
bleachers, not that base. He said that's sturdy.
That
But
wall,
he said the wall is sturdy.
The
But
wall
he
was
said
holding
the
it up.
bleachers with those rods are
The
called.
rebar.
Rebar. Those are what's
Which is inside the seating.
in the seating, but we
Right.
won't have nobody over the seating. If we just do the advertisement over there, it'll pay for itself if we have to do anything later.
It's definitely something we can discuss.
yeah.
This
Yeah.
motion is just to
So,
apply for a
yeah,
grant.
Yeah, and it,
Which
at
is
your,
due by the end of the month.
Yeah.
and at your place, there's this sheet of paper, says the grant project application at the top. If you could please just sign where the X is,
Okay.
and we will fill in the rest. That's all I have.
Okay.
But this is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, go
This
ahead.
is not to say that this is the, you know, like, we're not deciding, this was just like either or to put it on the agenda to move forward, right?
To move, so we can
Not
apply.
move forward with the application.
Apply for the grant.
Apply for the grant. Yeah.
Okay, that's, okay.
That I know.
Yeah.
So, was it my understanding that you were gonna apply for a grant to tear it down and a grant to refurbish it? Is that my understanding?
That's
We,
what I thought.
well, I spoke with a representative yesterday from the county. She said, just do one application, and, you know, we can start with demolish, but we can also put a statement in there that potentially we could refurbish. And if we are granted the money, if we're an awardee, we can go back and change things if we need to. If we want to decide to use the money towards refurbishing, we can refurbish.
Why won't you do both at the same time? Because sometimes the wording, we know, like.
She told me just do
contracts-
one application. That's what she told me.
So it's just one application?
Yes,
So you will put in that application a verbiage for refurbish?
yes.
If we decide
It's-
to refurbish it?
Yes.
But if you put refurbish it, and it needs to be torn down, which is more money, then we won't have that money. So you have to put in to tear it, basically, to
Yeah,
get
we'll
the
put it in.
amount of money.
But there's a.
But a grant, you
They're
have
not
to
gonna
use
fund the
just
whole.
like
Yeah,
they
and-
say.
Right.
I'll
That's
share
what he's saying.
that. Okay, and one thing it did share was, more than likely, there would only be about $100,000 granted. And as he said last week, this could be an over $200,000 project, so we would still have to find additional funding.
So,
Can I ask who's your contact with community development?
Lisa Troiani,
You said
that's,
Lisa?
Troiani, that's who I spoke with.
All right.
so the most you could get in the community block grant is $100,000?
She guesstimated that, yeah.
Okay.
She said usually about 100,000 at the most, that's what they give.
I have a question, Dr. Coppola. Did you check with any of the architects, or was that the only one that you?
A few years ago, we had a few in, but that particular firm I like the best myself.
What about them did you like? I'm just curious.
Just their approach, they seem more down to earth and customer friendly, and not just trying to sell something and propose something that wasn't realistic at the time. And just to, also, when I spoke with the lady from the county, she also gave me a name to call. I tried to call that person today and left them a message. And also tomorrow, I'm planning to speak with Representative Matzi to see if there's any other grant programs that we could qualify or apply for. So I forgot to mention that. So Through text messaging, I did apply, or communicate with Representative Massey. He's gonna give me a call tomorrow.
Print there, sign.
All right, any more questions on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recommendation to approve letter of agreement with the Meadows Psychiatric Center for the 2021-22 and 2022-23 school year.
I'll move it. Second.
Tori and Tina? That's
Who second?
Mrs. Price Jeans.
Any questions on the motion?
Can I, is that with the, who did we have before for that? That was, with, is this the same thing we going forward, we had before? Who was it? Who? Western Site, yeah. Is this the same people or no?
If a student either would be court-ordered or if a doctor would recommend that they go to school there, they would be placed there. We would not, as a school district, we will not send students there. They will either be court-ordered or placed there by another entity, and the cost, I believe, is $67 a day to educate them. So,
Okay.
Any more questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recommendation to approve the 2021-22 school calendar.
I'll move. Second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Tax parcel purchases.
As listed, just say as listed.
Okay, thank you. All right. Recommendation to approve the tax parcel purchases as listed.
I'll move. I'll second.
Who moved? Who moved?
Mrs. Kane.
Yes, okay.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Finance?
Okay. Financial reports. Recommendation to approve the following reports for January and February 2021. Treasury report, report of taxes collected, report of delinquent property tax collections, general fund financial statements, and cafeteria fund financial statements.
I'll move. Second.
Questions on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Wow, you got to vote. This is terrible. Go ahead.
Disbursements. Recommendations to approve the general fund disbursements in the amount of $677,570.82 for March 2021. General fund ratifications in the amount of $1,529,888.44 for January and February 2021. And the cafeteria fund disbursements in the amount of $63,883.76 for March 2021. I'll second.
Any questions on the motion? Roll call.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mrs. Bible,
Yes.
Mrs. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Price Jeans,
Yes.
Ms. Colorado,
Yes.
Mrs. Kane,
Yes.
Mrs. Durham Flanagan,
Yes.
and Mr. Lowe. Yes. Mrs. Stewart.
Number 3, BVIU Budget 2021-2022. Recommendation to approve the BVI's general operating budget by the Aliquippa School District. The budget total is $490,231. Let me read it. It is $1,490,231. This is a decrease of $117. The district's contribution is $5,331.30. This is an increase of $65.63.
Second.
Which one?
Questions on the motion?
I have a comment.
Did we find out why
was
it
an
went down but ours didn't?
When I spoke with Dr. Rosendale, he said there is a formula based on the funding that we receive, our aid ratio, and our average daily membership. And he says it's a complicated formula, and that's why it increased.
Would they expect to get more, would they expect us to get more because of our demographics or what?
No, just our overall attendance and enrollment.
We have a new president out there, Mr. Angus from Ambridge School Board.
We have to do a roll call on this one.
Yeah, we should, yeah.
Roll call.
I think there's a certification.
Oh, I'm sorry, were there any more questions? Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Bible,
Yes.
Mrs. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Price James,
Yes.
Ms. Colorado,
Yes.
Mrs. Kane,
Yes,
Mrs. Durham Flanagan,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mr. Lowe,
yes.
Ms. Stewart.
Yes.
Number 4, audit report. Recommendation to approve the audit report prepared by Mark C. Turnley, CPA, for the Aliquippa School District for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020.
I'll move.
Second.
Any questions on the motion?
No, roll call.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, so nothing on education and technology. Athletics?
Recommended action for the following spring sports program 2021 season, subject to the completion of the season and further subject to proration of salary in the event of a shortened season. Eli Mattis, assistant baseball coach, $2,000. Jerry Sansini, baseball volunteer. Joseph Placidi, baseball volunteer. Carly Avon, assistant softball coach, $2,000. Deshaun Patrick, assistant track and field coach, $3,100.
I move. Second.
Any questions on the motion?
Should that say assistant
Yes.
coaches? Should that say assistant coaches at the top?
Doesn't it say that?
It says the following spring sports coaches.
But it's
In the
subject.
motion.
Yeah, well, they're coaches, yeah, they're coaches, that's not, doesn't say head coach.
Okay.
Somebody had mentioned it last week, so I just,
Yeah, no, I think we're okay.
I have a question. Being that we're dealing with athletics, are we gonna do anything as far as, Pete Short? And his, being that we're approving salaries for the assistants and volunteers?
That's going to be discussed at the next athletics meeting.
Okay, cool.
And everybody on here, they have the
Clearances.
clearances and everything?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yes.
Okay. And we're not privy to that, right? We can't see them?
That's correct.
Okay.
You can't see them?
No, that's up to him to tell you if there's a problem, correct.
If there's a problem, I usually refer it to him. So-
Okay. All right, because I'm gonna be asking y'all some questions later.
All right.
Are we still doing it every 3 or 5 years?
Every 5.
Every 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, but for new hires or new volunteers, it's.
You need new ones. Yes.
What did you say?
For new people, you need them right now, if they're new.
Right.
But everybody else is every 5 years, yes.
Any other questions? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Mason,
Yes.
Mrs. Price Jeans,
Yes.
Ms. Call
Yes.
Mrs. Kane,
Yes.
Mrs. Stern Flanagan,
Yes.
Ms. Gill,
Yes,
Mrs. Bible,
Yes.
Mr. Lowe,
And I'm just gonna abstain from that, because I got some questions about it.
okay, and Mrs. Stewart.
Yes.
Was that a yes or no from abstains?
Personnel,
Recommendation to approve the following employees for FMLA intermittent leave for 60 days. An AESPA employee within the 1 year period, March 7, 2021 to March 6, 2022. An ES professional employee within the 1 year period, March 16, 2021 through March 15, 2022.
I'll move.
A second.
any questions on the motion?
Okay,
Nicole? Did you second?
never mind. Okay, never mind. Never.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Building and grounds,
Recommendation to approve contract renewals with Johnson Controls for a period of 5 years, beginning April 1st, 2021, through and including March 31st, 2026. Annual costs are $5,040 for the ES and $7,610 for the junior senior high.
I move.
I move.
you second, Tina.
Oh, I
You already
second.
said it.
Sorry.
any questions on the motion?
Who moved?
Why is it 5 years? Does it have to be 5 years? Is that negotiable? The 5 years, is that negotiable? Like, that's a long time. for a
That's
contract.
usually what it is, 5 years.
But I'm saying it can change, because 5 years is a long time.
Mr. Collins, did they mention anything as far as?
Just the standard contract.
I'm sorry, has it been past practice, but it can change? Because that's a long
Actually, it
time.
could, yes, I could reach out to them and see if they could offer us a shorter term contract and what those
Perfect.
numbers would be.
Yeah.
I don't know if the numbers would increase or not based on a shorter length.
Yeah, we have to see what it is. 'Cause 5 years is a
Then we can't
long
vote
time.
on this.
And is there a cost for breaking it?
Oh, yeah.
But we need this April
If you-
1st. We
Yeah,
don't
you
have
can,
it.
we can't vote on this.
So we're not even breaking the contract, she just wants us to.
This will have to be tabled.
What is the service?
It's supposed to start April
They
1st,
oversee
though.
the sprinkler system.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And they're the ones that install both systems at both buildings.
They do our fire extinguisher.
Fire alarm, sprinklers.
So are they installing more sprinklers, or they just service their needs?
I can't understand.
Are they installing more, systems, or they just maintaining these?
That's for maintaining both buildings.
The ones they just installed though. Because they just fixed our,
They updated the inspected range. All the sprinkler systems and brought them up to code.
But we spent money to go bring back up the code.
They're required to be inspected every year.
There's certain parts of the sprinkler system that are annual, some are 3 years, some are 5 years. There's just different components.
Which one is ours?
Well, different components of the system have different year lengths set by the fire code, not by,
So then wouldn't
not by
it
us.
behoove them, us, whoever, to do it every 3 years versus every 5? Because what if the
No.
one that's every 3 years, it goes without maintenance for 2 more years?
No, they'll come out and inspect
Yes, I'm talking about.
the part that needs inspected annually. Annually, and then if there's something that needs done at the 3-year increment, they do that part then at the 3-year, and then the 5-year part at the 5th-year anniversary.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Of last year's inspection. They base it off of last year's inspection.
Okay.
but they inspect every year.
Yes.
Any other questions on the motion?
This is gonna be tabled, right?
Don't we need
Because
it?
that's a long time.
It's supposed to start
Last
April
year.
1st.
No, because if they're gonna inspect it every year.
But you
But it
have
was
to
just-
get
it was just
inspections every
saying-
year, but
I know, but it just-
contract for 5 years, that's a long
I
time to
don't,
be
well,
committed.
yeah, what it said, when we started 5 years, we thought they were gonna do it every 5 years.
Mr.
No,
Collins,
but
how long have they been one of our vendors, or been doing this prior to the renovation, correct?
The sprinkler systems in both buildings were just installed during renovations, but I believe the fire alarm system, they have a combination of names, but Simplex was Johnson Controls
Yes.
prior, and I believe Simplex,
Yeah,
who
I
is
remember that.
also now known as Johnson Controls, was our fire alarm
They were.
monitoring company even before renovation. So more than, what is it, 11 years, 12
Yeah.
years
Used to be
now?
Simplex, okay.
So it's longer than 12 years.
Yeah, they've been-
I'd like to see it pass to see if
Yeah,
we could do that.
So did we always do a 5-year contract?
The last prior contract was also a 5-year contract, the previous contract.
So what happens if we don't vote tonight? Like, because the next board meeting is what?
After this one expires.
And it's like the 14, 15 or something like that. What happens if the system, what happens then with the system and with us?
We would have to pay for it.
Expired.
Correct.
Something happened.
When does the contract end?
March 30th.
March 30th.
March what?
31st.
Not unless he can go get numbers before March 31st, because, 5 years is really a long time for a contract.
But we won't have time to vote. What kind of numbers?
It's been a past practice, and we already been in trouble with past practices. So we need to tighten up and make sure we shop around and see exactly what's going on.
No, then we'll be out until the 14th or the 21st.
We
Because
could
we
vote
can't
on the
vote again until the
14th.
7th.
He said
14th?
they just put them in.
Is this new on this week's agenda?
It was on last week.
I think we should vote on this, and then we discuss it.
No, if you
Different
vote on it,
thing.
you can't go back and discuss it. You
Yeah,
can't
if we
do that.
vote on it for 5
No.
years, we have to stay with the 5
I
years.
know, I'm just saying, I'm talking about, discuss it for the next time. Contract.
No, it's not
Because
next
this gotta
time.
be done. This gotta be
Because once they
done.
get a contract for
This
5
has-
years,
This is important, this has to be
It's
done.
Simplex,
can they
I
do
remember
it
this
for an
being-
extension for 1 year until?
When I first got on
They've
board.
gone by numerous names.
Right.
No.
And they still, on the side of their trucks, it says Simplex, Tyco, Johnson Controls. The name they primarily go by today is Johnson Controls. But because they've had so many names that they've gone by, they advertise on their vehicles, all their known names.
So Pat, is this like average for a company like this, a 5-year contract, like the
And
pricing
we
and
fixed
the
that.
length of the contract?
I believe it is, and in the body of the email that the contracts came in, that I forwarded to Debbie and Dr. Carbone, the increase over our previous contract, it's minimal. I believe, and I don't have the body of the contract, but I wanna say it was a $200 increase, which, is that 3%?
The junior, senior high school is $252. The elementary school is $212.
What is that?
And those prices are held.
Increase from the last 5
From the
years.
last
No
contract.
increase for
That's
5
from the
years.
last, right, contract signed 5 years ago.
Are they planning on going up every 5 years, or?
I mean,
Most
most
do.
companies have a increase just based on cost of living and things like that, that's typical. But I can't predict what they'll do 5 years from now, but I would assume,
Yeah, this is the cost for 5 years. It won't go up next year or.
right, no,
or
but
three,
you
four,
locked in
five.
at this price for the next 5 years.
But in 5 years, it'll probably go up another couple
Yeah.
$100 because of the rise in the cost of living.
Exactly, yeah.
Or maybe a more.
And if we wait, what happens? We
wait and something happen.
We're responsible for
Yeah,
it.
we don't
But
want,
did you say the new sprinklers were put in, did you say that?
we don't.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say that, what was the maintenance, were there new sprinklers put in? Like
And
today?
during
right now, what's going on?
renovation, prior to the renovations, neither building had sprinkler systems. And during the renovation, they added sprinkler systems to both buildings
Okay, when were they last, inspected?
last year.
Okay, so it passed, it was good for last year.
Yeah, there was I'm sorry, you weren't on the board at the time, but there was a big to-do, if you will, that the board went through because unfortunately, the sprinkler system had not been kept up to date prior to that with inspections, and there were numerous deficiencies found with the system that came along with bringing it up to date was a large dollar amount to get repaired and brought up to date.
So that has been done.
That's been.
So even if
Or
we,
you just-
you know,
just
you
got
call,
on
if
before.
someone calls to find
Okay, I
out,
remember we
you
did
know,
s-
if we don't do the 5-year, because I don't anticipate, if it has been maintained, then I don't anticipate something happen with the sprinkler system that we have to hurry up and make an agreement. Because I'm not agreeing for a 5-year contract, because that's a long time,
Yeah,
but I think we need to shop around and see what's out there.
Yeah.
But he's
So
saying
would
that
you-
that's not the only thing that they maintain for us, they're doing
Well,
their
no, I
fire
understand that,
alarm
but he said right
system.
now, up to date, we are satisfactory.
They have to do yearly
Yeah.
inspections.
I understand,
So
and
that's
we have met the yearly inspection, we
Uh,
did that.
When was that?
Can I ask a question? Why were we out of compliance if they inspect every year?
I don't think the repairs were being made. The suggested repairs
So
weren't
what
being
they do
made.
inspect and tell you what needs to be repaired,
Yes,
and we weren't doing it.
that's what happened.
And we're paying all this money?
And we paying them this money?
Hold up. In all fairness,
No, he just said, and we weren't doing it.
Now, listen what I'm
that
saying.
maintenance
In all fairness, that's not on Pat. This stuff was happening before he
Yeah,
came.
we know
yeah, we
that,
know
we're
that.
just
We're just
saying.
trying
Now, listen, this is
Yeah.
what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying.
Well, don't cut everybody up, let them finish
No,
talking.
no, don't cut everybody off. Just let me say this. Let me
Jesus
say this.
Christ.
This is stuff that was out of compliance before he got on.
That's what she just
Now
said.
he worked and he got it up to code. He had to do that. It had to be done. It was a must do. Now, the thing, what we need to look at is, in those previous years, was any money being spent on that?
Of course it was.
And if, okay, and if it was, then we need to find out what happened to the money that was spent on it and it wasn't repaired. So that's what we need to deal with.
That makes sense.
But this
We
here,
know he don't.
this here, we need to vote on this. Yeah, we
Well,
do.
we're not- You're not saying we don't wanna vote on it. She's not saying,
vote no.
she's just saying for 5 years, that's all. She's not saying we don't wanna vote on it.
Okay, all right.
So I don't know, if, you know, you say everything's done every year, this is done every 3 years, it's done every 5 years.
Should we do a roll call then?
Yeah, do a roll call.
So,
Cause how can they let it keep going on each year if
Exactly.
repairs have not been made from the previous year that they inspect?
And now we're up to date.
He said he said we weren't.
who is we?
School wasn't.
The school.
The school
was not.
We
Doing
weren't
repairs.
See, I
making
know that,
repairs,
but
we
how
weren't
could they
allowing
keep-
them
if
to
they
make
weren't doing the
repairs because it's an
repairs,
additional
How
cost.
next year did they pass it again inspection if they didn't pass the previous year? And they wasn't doing the maintenance? That's what I'm saying, how do they pass it from year to year when they're supposed to be doing inspection every year? I know you don't know,
Right.
but you
The
didn't
only thing I
look at
can-
you.
From my
came
perspective, my position, when it was brought to my attention that the sprinkler system had not been inspected for 9 or 10 years, I brought it to the board's attention.
Right, you sure did.
And
This is
we
something,
fixed it.
also our insurance company brought to our attention, that this is, system has to be inspected. And it pained me to bring it to you guys with the dollar amount that was attached to it, and I do appreciate that we,
Thank you for
got
bringing it to
fixed.
us.
Yeah. Mr. Collins, were there prior inspections that we just didn't fix, are you aware of?
To my knowledge, nobody prior to me in this position did anything with the sprinkler system after it was installed. I don't have an answer to why that occurred or didn't occur.
Okay.
Were they inspected?
They came and did the fire alarms.
Unfortunately, I can't answer
So-
that. They weren't inspected. I can't answer.
One, right.
It
still
wasn't
paying them and it wasn't
inspected.
It was during this
So
time.
so it wasn't Johnson and Control's fault, is that what you're saying? Or no?
No.
That's not what you're saying?
No.
I'm not saying it was Johnson
We're
Controls.
paying them
Say it
every
back.
year.
So what,
I'm not.
And they're not doing their job.
I don't wanna point the finger at anybody, because I don't know who to point the finger at.
That's right. That's right.
Completely honest.
That's right.
Okay,
And we shouldn't put him in that spot.
Right.
That's right.
I
He's on
understand.
it.
I just didn't know what he
No,
was
no,
saying.
he know we're not talking about him.
Yeah.
He just come up.
What's the procedure for when the inspection needs to be done? Like, who manages that?
Typically, the vendor notifies me, we had an elevator inspection done today. The inspector, Tim Morgan from the different elevator division, contacts me, hey, the freight elevator at the elementary is due for inspection, when can we get that scheduled? That was 2 weeks ago, and we scheduled. I said, well, based on our current school schedule, Wednesdays work best. What's a good Wednesday for you? Today was the day. He came over, we did the freight elevator at the elementary and the regular passenger elevator here at the junior senior high today. Because with our school schedule, Wednesday, there's no students or staff in the building. So when the elevator's down for inspection, it runs.
But elevators are a
Controls
little,
would do the same thing.
elevators are a little bit different, right? Because we have a certificate that has to be posted.
Right, there's a permit for
And
that, right.
this is when
But-
it has to be.
But it's also similar that now Johnson Controls should contact me and say, hey, the gauges on your, and I'm just using that as an example, the gauges on the sprinkler system are due for their annual check. When can we set that up? And they would schedule that with me. So what's a good time to come out? Based on where they need to be in the building, if they have to drain the system down, there's different things, depending on what they need to do.
Have they done that since you've been in your position?
Not with the sprinkler system since they brought it all up to date last year. I do expect a call from them in the next 1 to 2 months, because we're not at that window just
So
yet.
when they came in last year to do the inspection, did they contact you?
Yeah.
Did you contact them because there was a problem?
Maybe,
Let him
if we get approved, maybe they just come out next month or whenever before to start the inspection and keep track of it.
Right. And then, yeah, I contacted them. They did the review of all the deficiencies, which I presented to all of you, what needed brought up to code. And once that was given approval, they came out and made the repairs and inspected everything, and we're good right now.
But don't you have a log or a journal, it should be, of when inspections were done and the date, and it needs to be signed off? And I know I'm not saying it's your fault, I'm just asking, it should be a log for when it was done and signed off. So apparently someone did sign off that it was done, or they didn't sign off. You know what I mean? Because something happened. Because it was not, satisfactory, and they had to go in and do a lot of jobs and bring it up to code.
Well, part of that was because they simply weren't doing.
That's what I'm saying, you said they weren't
Right.
doing it, but somewhere you have to log, like who did what, inspected what, you have to have something logged down, verifying that it has been done. And it's,
I do have
You do that now.
of the inspections, and I have that on my computer, and I also shared it with the building principals and Dr. Carbone and Debbie, that when they did the inspection, that they passed and what all the different results were. Each document was, I don't know, 12 to 15 pages long of everything they did.
no, I understand that, I think, and like I said, I'm not saying it's your fault or nothing like that, I'm honest to goodness, I'm not. I'm just saying, do you have a law where it states that whenever these problems existed, is there a past law before you came here? Because I wasn't here. There's no law?
There's not.
Okay.
From before I took the position, there's not.
And do they get paid the money as a lump sum one time, or they, it's for each year, it's, in a percentage each year?
That's a yearly fee.
Or do they, huh?
It's a yearly,
That's a yearly fee.
that's a yearly fee.
I can't hear you.
Yearly
It's a
fee, it's an
yearly
annual
fee.
fee.
So we've been paying them, but we ain't been passing inspection.
No documentation, no nothing.
It's not that we haven't passed inspection, nobody was having them come out and do the inspection.
Or,
That's when he just said it wasn't inspected.
no, he was saying they was inspecting and he gave them a
No,
list of
that's-
what was wrong, but no one's
Last year,
repaired.
That's not what he said.
He said
The
prior
previous
to
years.
when he had them come out last year,
That was last year. I'm
it
talking about the
was,
previous
it wasn't
year.
inspected for 9 years from the time it was installed.
Okay, so, but we continue to pay them. That's what I'm asking.
They do other
Because
services.
it's every 5 years, if they been inspecting
Still paying
in
for
9
that.
years, then something's wrong in between.
They do
there.
other services,
I
they do
understand
other
that, but you're still
services.
paying them for that service.
Well, we paying
It's
them.
like
But
a
we don't
contract.
know if it was because they contacted
Exactly,
somebody,
but it
wait,
wasn't done.
can I finish?
You can finish.
If they contacted somebody
Yeah.
here and that person here
Yeah.
said, no, we don't need an inspection, or
They can't say
if,
that.
You can't say that.
or, that's what I'm saying, or if they just didn't contact us at all, we don't know either
That's
way.
possible. Anything is possible.
Right.
Like I said, but it's not logged down. It should be logged down anywhere. When you go to a restaurant, go to the bathroom, they log down who was in here last to clean the bathroom, who's
Right.
coming up.
Exactly.
It's simple as that.
The elevator
It's not-
does too, initially.
I understand
So can we
that.
put some type of record in place moving forward, Pat, so that that stuff is
Thank you.
tracked?
So are you doing that now that you took over, you got a paper
Yeah,
trail?
start logging.
I mean, other than the reports, I don't, but I will start keeping logs of any type of inspections we have. I will keep separate logs for whether it's fire alarm, sprinkler system, elevator inspections, whatever they are.
Okay, because you know, the fire extinguisher, I don't know if you have a committee or somebody go around, I don't know how long it is.
The fire.
Fire extinguisher, somebody have to come
They
in.
come out every year, right around, just before Christmas,
Okay,
in December. Usually during Christmas break,
Okay.
when no one's here. They were just done in 2020.
okay, so they do it once a year then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do, they function
Okay.
too, they be.
Does this company
But
do
that-
those?
no, the
That's a
fire
different company.
extinguishers is a separate company.
So this company does the sprinkler system and the fire
Fire
alarm?
alarms, like where
Alarm.
you would pull or for the fire
Oh.
drills.
Okay. Any other services they do?
They do our door alarm monitoring, like when you go out and hear the beep. So like if we have an event on the weekends, I have to contact them and say, you know, I got people in the gym from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon on a Saturday. Please disregard alarm monitoring. And if we don't do that, and they notice motion in the building, they'll contact 911, who contacts the police department, who are supposed to send somebody up to investigate.
And that's this
Who's
Johnson
in
and
the building,
Johnson?
Both buildings.
Okay.
But who's in the building and, you know, is it, you know, a team practicing and just the call is not made? Or did somebody break into one of the buildings?
Somebody got locked in the school.
Okay, is that it for the question?
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and do this, we're gonna, a roll call?
I suggested roll call.
All right, we're gonna do a roll call vote.
Mrs. Price James,
Yes,
Are you saying yes to what? What you saying yes to? You know what you're saying yes to?
yes. I'm saying yes to this five-year contract.
Okay.
Ms. Caldwell,
Yes.
Mrs. Kane,
Yes.
Mrs. Stern Flanagan,
No,
Ms. Gill,
Yes.
Mrs. Bible,
Yes?
Mrs. Mason,
yes.
Mr. Lowe,
Yes.
and Ms. Stewart.
That's me, I'm sorry. Recommendation to approve the city of Aliquippa to use the junior senior high parking lot for an electronics recycling event on Saturday, April 24th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Move.
Second.
Is that Stephanie or Tina?
Any questions on the motion?
Yeah, that TVs and all that kind of stuff people can bring up here.
Yes,
And they'll dispense it and everything.
yes.
Ooh, good, okay.
There's a cost associated with that though, ain't there?
Pardon
You know
me?
what I'm saying?
I think they need approval to use our property to still own it, but there is a cost associated.
For the recycling.
For the recycling.
Okay, but then they're going to pay us then. Is there anything where we gonna offer pay?
Don't you
Because
have to pay so much per TV or something?
I think it is.
$75.
Yeah, I think there is.
The last time I checked, it was $75.
We don't know.
we're not,
person.
The person's bringing.
we're just, yeah,
So-
we're just
They're
allowing
just
them to use the
asking for
property.
approval to
And we have
use
somebody on
They
duty,
wanna
so there's
use
no
it, but they need to
overtime
give
or
us some
someone covering
kickback
it.
They
then.
bring the TVs up and they
No,
have to pay
is it,
for them to do it?
if it's
I
my
don't know.
TV, I'm paying? Is that
Right.
what you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Oh,
You
okay.
have to pay them $75 to
have
take
it
your
as part
TV.
of it.
Pay who $75?
The recycling people.
What?
yeah, for
Unless
each
maybe they made an
TV,
agreement.
so we should be getting something off of that, I mean, they're not doing it for free.
Throw it over the heater like everybody else doing over there.
Come on, my side.
What she just said.
Any more questions on the motion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Here. I'll hold. Put that down.
She opposed, she opposed.
Oh, it's okay.
All right, nothing to report for capital project. Policy,
Second reading for policy 832, electronic signatures.
Wait, it's just a reading. That shouldn't be on there. That's a typo.
Yeah, we have to do third reading.
So we're gonna pass it the next time.
Yeah.
nothing on the information, nothing on the. Maybe have a motion to adjourn?
No.
I do, yes.
No,
No? Okay.
no, because I would like to once again announce that there will be a meeting, March 24th, 5 p.m. up here for parents, teachers, guidance counselor, principals, students in the, community, so that they will once again get notification of how this is working for the kids. We're gonna have some kids speaking on what their, how it worked for them. We want to, also ask the teachers, how is it going for them? And we know that way they can't say we're not trying to stay in the know of what's going on. That we will always, try to find out what's going on, what could benefit the kids and the teachers. We don't want our teachers all leaving.
How did, the first couple days of here go, Stacy?
They said nice.
Well, we had about 122 students that reported for group A. Some of the students that had a great time in hybrid stayed home that day. That's okay. We did hear a pattern of slightly larger people. It was actually good to see them here. They were sleepy. Other than that, they really did good. We had some new students who at first, this is their first time actually in the building, so it was nice to see some new faces as well. I will say this, I'm sure everyone grew 2 feet because everyone's so much taller over this last year, but I would say it was a successful day, so we'll see how the community goes tomorrow. Thank you for asking.
How is the online component working?
The students that have not really engaged in online still aren't. There are some students who are still just kind of checking in. Some of the reports from the teachers are that the students are online and then they'll ask the questions, but they don't hear anything. So there's students that are logging in, being present, but not attending to the class. So it's varied and it's mixed, but I did see a student on the very first day and I said, honey, do you know where your homeroom is? And she goes, no. And I said, well, it's your first period that you've been doing. And she said, Ms. Alexander, I haven't done work all year. So we're having students from multiple levels coming in, we have to meet them where they are.
Right.
She said, I've been working, Ms. Alexander, I've been working my job. So a lot of students have made a lot of adjustments. I'm quite honest with you, I'm surprised that a lot of jobs are still offering that to our high school kids. So some of them are still working during the day, and they're growing into understanding that the videos are not available at night. So hopefully during this transition, they'll work with their particular job so that their schedules could change so that they can report to school. But they were happy to be there, and quite frankly, I was happy to see them. So it's fair, everybody's having a varied experience. But the ones who have not tapped in, some of them aren't tapping in, and the ones who haven't seen, they're the ones that decided to walk into the building. So we're adjusting that way.
That's why I wanted to do this, because we have parents complaining to us about how we're not doing our job as far as the kids, the education and the instructional learning, where we still to this day, don't have kids, just, even if they're punch in and that's it. No response, no interaction with the class or the teacher. So we need to let these parents know what we're doing what we're doing, but we need for the kids to participate also, and the parents to push their kids to participate.
Were you guys aware that there's a system, you had a system issue, let me see, it was yesterday. One of the students, actually, I work with a parent, and the student was saying that she couldn't get on, she tried to log on. She called the teacher never called her back. She reached out to someone else. If you like, I can get a copy of the error message that's on the phone that was sent to, that was on the computer, I'm sorry, and she sent it to her mom. And someone, I wanna say, it could have been someone from IT, said that you guys are having issues, and this is in the high school level, and this was just yesterday.
The only thing that was brought to our attention specifically were students tried to bring in their home devices, they were having some difficulty there. So those students needed to bring in school issue devices, but no one reported that the system wasn't working.
Yeah.
So, if they called the office, that would help.
Yeah, I
Because
told her to call the
teachers
office
are
too.
teaching, so during the day, so if they wanna call the office if there's issues, then we can rectify it.
Speaking of issues, Mr. Mott, was there an issue with sixth grade the other day? Because sixth grade didn't do any live streaming. Okay, so.
We had to split the classes.
Okay.
There's some subs don't know how to do the live stream.
Oh,
So we
okay.
just, you know what I mean? We can't ask them to do that, plus watch the kids, they're like, just pop in.
Okay.
So you
Yeah, because
just
I knew
have
the one was on and one wasn't. I was wondering
Yeah,
why.
if there's
Okay.
a sub and that teacher's out, the live stream is hard to do the sub. So
Okay.
we just kind of try to split them, and then those kids work asynchronous. So.
And how did orientation go last week?
We had about 50% participation.
Yeah.
It was good. I was glad to see the parents.
So did you do the meeting?
I'm sorry. Did you do the meeting? Anytime, is there a flyer? Because we can help you out and get the word out.
Okay. They need to know what you want to do for, the kids. They gotta get on, they got to, do some work. I know Dog tried to, log on with my tablet, and it wouldn't let him on. So he had to get his computer and log on, but it wouldn't let him log on with anything else.
Yeah, I think this is what she uses, a computer, and I guess correspondence went back and forth, and, the student was
Right.
like, see, Mom, it's not me, and it was verified by someone here, I can't get through, but someone here said they are experiencing issues.
Steve, probably was Steve.
Probably.
I just wanted to welcome Mr. Lowe back. That's all.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Carter.
You got a nice haircut.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
He done lost weight, he looks good.
Welcome back. Glad to have you back,
I owe it all to Mr. Saladin.
I believe it.
I'm his campaign manager. He was mayor down there at Village St.
Welcome
Hey,
back.
Pete.
Glad you're safe and healthy.
So I seen the messages going out about the kiddos that decided to stay virtual that was sent out. So are we having a lot of parents or
There,
responding about wanting them to
there-
come back now?
there was a handful, Ms. Shepherd told me there was a handful of phone calls that she received, and she asked me to send that out, so
Okay.
that's why.
I believe junior, senior high, they have until the close of this week to see if it's working or not. We probably had about, 70 that we could not reach because we didn't have an accurate number, so we made those adjustments as the parents are coming in, because you update your number, but most students are saying, I am going to come in. We haven't had anybody say, we're deciding against out of group A.
That's good.
Yeah, they're like really excited.
No, we need to adjourn.
And I like to thank y'all for that nice blanket I got, boy, that thing sure working.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And then, Mr. Lowe, on behalf,
It's working.
excuse me, our president is speaking, Mr. Lowe.
There she
On
go.
behalf of the board, we all would like to, along with Mrs. Price Jean,
Oh, I'm sorry, I
welcome you
didn't
back. And we have this small gift for you. All right, now let's have a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, go ahead.
Second.
You second.
Let's go.
Any questions on the motion?
Yes.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I'll meet you at Brewster's, Mr. Lowe.